The moment Emily Carter looked up from her coffee, everything shifted. It wasn't loud or obvious. It was quiet but strong enough to stop her breath for half a second. Someone across the cafe was watching her, and the feeling crawled under her skin before her mind could explain it. The cafe in downtown Portland was busy, filled with the low hum of conversations and the smell of roasted beans. Emily had been coming here every Saturday morning since she moved from Chicago. It was her place to think, to reset, to remind herself she was doing fine on her own. She wasn't searching for connection. She wasn't open to surprises. Or at least, that's what she believed. Then she saw him. He stood near the window. Tall, calm, wearing a dark coat like he'd just stepped in from the cold. His eyes met hers without hesitation. No awkward glance away. No smile meant to impress. Just a steady look that felt intentional, as if he had recognized her before they ever met. Emily's fingers tightened around her coffee cup. She looked down quickly, her heart picking up speed for reasons she didn't understand. This was ridiculous. She didn't know him. He was just another stranger in a city full of them. But when she looked up again, he was still there. Now he was walking toward her. She felt a sudden awareness of herself, her posture, her breath, the fact that she cared at all. He stopped at her table, respectful, unhurried. "Hi," he said. His voice was low and even. "I don't usually interrupt people, but is this seat taken?" Emily glanced at the empty chair across from her. She should have said yes. She had no reason to invite a stranger into her morning. Still, something in his tone made it hard to refuse. "No," she said. "It's not." "Thanks," he replied, sitting down. "I'm Daniel. Daniel Brooks." "Emily," she said, surprised by how natural it felt to say her name. For a moment, neither of them spoke. It wasn't uncomfortable. It was like both were waiting for something invisible to settle. "I just moved here," Daniel said finally, "still figuring out where I belong." Emily let out a small laugh. "That makes two of us." The conversation unfolded quickly after that, like a door opening. They talked about Portland, about how it rained more than expected, about how cities could feel full and empty at the same time. Daniel listened closely, his attention steady, never drifting. Emily noticed she was talking more than usual, saying things she didn't plan to share. She told him about her move, about wanting a fresh start without explaining all the reasons why. He didn't push. He nodded, understanding more than she said out loud. Time moved faster than it should have. Emily barely noticed the cafe thinning out, the music changing, the light outside shifting dot. When she checked her phone, she froze. 2 hours had passed. "I should go," she said, startled. "Yeah," Daniel said softly. "Me too." They stood at the same time, both hesitating. Emily felt the weight of the moment pressing in on her chest. She didn't want to rush away, but staying felt dangerous. Daniel cleared his throat. "I know this might sound forward, but would you like to do this again? Maybe dinner sometime?" Emily's first instinct was to protect herself. She had been here before. Attraction that came fast often left faster. She had promised herself she wouldn't step into uncertainty again. But then she remembered the way he looked at her when she spoke. Like her words mattered. "I'd like that," she said. His smile was small but genuine. "Great." They exchanged numbers, simple, no drama. Yet Emily's hands were shaking slightly as she typed his name into her phone. Outside, the air was cold and sharp. Emily walked home with her coat pulled tight, replaying the moment over and over. She told herself it was just coffee, just conversation, just coincidence. Still, when her phone buzzed later that evening with a message from Daniel, "I enjoyed today." More than I expected, her heart skipped. Their next meeting came quickly. Dinner at a quiet place near the river. Emily told herself she could leave any time, that she was in control. But once again, Daniel surprised her. He asked thoughtful questions. He shared pieces of his own life without turning the focus back to himself. He spoke about growing up in Vancouver, about moving south for work, about how change always felt harder than expected. Emily felt something open inside her, slow and careful. She laughed more. She relaxed. She forgot to watch the clock as the night ended. They walked along the river in silence, the city lights reflecting on the water. Daniel didn't reach for her hand. He didn't step too close. His restraint made the moment heavier, not lighter. At her building, Emily stopped. "I had a good time," she said, meaning more than the words aloud. "Me too," Daniel replied. "I don't want to rush this." She nodded. "I appreciate that." They stood there longer than necessary, both aware that something was forming. When they finally said goodbye, Emily felt the absence of him immediately. Like a quiet echo, over the next few days, they met again. Coffee turned into walks. Walks turned into long talks that stretched into evening. Nothing crossed a line. Everything stayed gentle, respectful. Yet the connection grew stronger with each meeting. Emily began to notice the small things. The way Daniel paused before answering, choosing honesty over ease. The way he remembered details she mentioned only once. The way he looked at her not with urgency, but with intention, and that scared her. One night, after they shared a simple meal at her place, Emily stood by the window, arms crossed. "I don't usually let things get like this," she admitted. "Like what?" Daniel asked. "Like, important." He studied her face. "I was thinking the same thing." The word hung between them. Important. Emily swallowed. "I've been hurt before." Daniel nodded. "Me too." That honesty felt like both a comfort and a warning. Days later, things shifted. Daniel canceled their plans. Then he did it again. His messages stayed kind, but shorter. Something was different. Emily felt the familiar tightening in her chest, the warning signs she knew too well. When they finally met again, she saw the truth before he spoke. His shoulders were tense. His eyes carried something heavy. "There's something I need to tell you," Daniel said. Emily braced herself. "I might be moving back to Canada soon." The words felt unreal. "Moving." She repeated. "I didn't expect it," he said quickly. "And I didn't plan for this." "For us." Emily nodded slowly, trying to stay composed. She had promised herself she wouldn't ignore red flags. Distance was one she knew too well. "I wish you had told me earlier," she said quietly. "I know," Daniel replied. "I'm sorry." I didn't argue. There was no anger, just disappointment settling between them like fog. That night, Emily walked home alone, the city lights blurring. She told herself this was why she kept her distance, why she avoided hope. Still, days later, when her phone lit up with Daniel's name, "I'm leaving tomorrow. I didn't want to go without seeing you." Her heart answered before her mind could stop it. She went back to the cafe. He was there, standing by the window just like the first day, when he looked up and saw her. That same quiet spark returned. The look that started everything, and Emily knew, deep down, that whatever happened next would change her. The moment Emily stepped back into the cafe, the air seemed to shift. Daniel was already there, leaning slightly against the window, his eyes scanning the room until they found hers. That single look, the one that had first caught her off guard, hit her again, stronger this time, filled with a mix of longing and urgency. She walked toward him, her heart pounding, every step faster than the last, as though her feet had a mind of their own. "Emily," he said softly, almost a whisper, though his voice carried enough weight to make the room fade around them. She stopped a few feet away, caught between the impulse to run into his arms and the caution that had kept her safe before. "I didn't want to leave without seeing you." Her breath caught. She hadn't expected him to come. He had said he was moving back to Canada, leaving her with a quiet ache in her chest. She hadn't realized how much she'd allowed herself to care until that moment. Standing across from him, feeling like everything could change in a second. I'm glad you came," she managed, keeping her voice steady despite the rush of emotions. Daniel took a careful step closer, but not too close, respecting the invisible boundary they had built. "I had to," he said simply. "I couldn't leave without this." "Without seeing you one more time?" Amelia nodded, trying to process the storm inside her. She wanted to speak, to demand answers, to pull him into some kind of certainty, but the words wouldn't come. She had learned that some things, when spoken too quickly, could break rather than fix. They sat at their usual table, the one by the window that let in the soft afternoon light. The city outside moved on, unaware of the quiet intensity unfolding inside. Emily watched him carefully, noticing the slight tension in his shoulders, the way his eyes softened when they lingered on hers. She realized she had missed this more than she wanted to admit. His presence had a way of filling the gaps she hadn't even known were there. So she began, keeping her tone casual, though her chest felt tight. "You're really leaving?" Daniel sighed, leaning back slightly in his chair. "Yes," he admitted. "I didn't want to. But there are things I can't avoid. Work, family, life. It all points back to Canada. I can't stay here forever." Emily nodded again, though her mind screamed at her to stop agreeing so easily. She could feel the tension in the space between them, a fragile thread that could snap with a single wrong word. Yet somehow the thread held strong enough to pull her in. "I don't know what to say," she said finally, her voice softer now. I didn't expect." "I know," Daniel interrupted gently. "Neither did I when I first saw you. I didn't expect this either. I didn't expect to care so much in such a short time." Emily's heart skipped. Care. The word echoed in her mind, heavy with possibility. She had been so careful, so determined not to let anyone close. And yet here he was, sitting across from her, admitting that he felt the same way she did. They talked then, really talked. Not about the weather, not about casual things, but about life, about fear, about the unexpected ways people touch each other's hearts. Daniel shared memories of Vancouver, of the life he was returning to. And Emily spoke about her struggles, about trying to find a place where she felt at home. Each word seemed to bridge the distance between them, both physical and emotional. Hours passed unnoticed. The light outside shifted from afternoon to early evening, painting the cafe in warm golden tones. Emily realized that the conversation, though heavy with reality, also carried a quiet hope. It was fragile, yes, but real. Daniel's presence reminded her of the parts of herself she had kept hidden, the longing for connection she had buried under rules and caution. When it was time to leave, neither moved quickly. They stood outside, the city buzzing faintly around them, yet the world felt paused. Emily looked up at Daniel, feeling the pull of the unspoken, the magnetic weight of possibility. "I don't want this to end," she admitted, almost too quietly. "I don't either," he said. His hand brushed hers briefly, a small contact but enough to send a jolt through her. "But we have to be honest. Distance will be hard. Life will be hard. I don't want to give you false hope." Emily met his gaze, seeing the truth in his eyes. He wasn't offering easy answers, but he wasn't walking away either. That honesty mattered, more than she expected. "I don't care about easy," she whispered. "I care about real." Daniel's lips curved into a small, hesitant smile. "Then maybe we can make this real, even if it's complicated, even if it's hard, even if it's scary." Emily felt tears prick the corners of her eyes, not from sadness, but from the intensity of feeling alive again. She realized that the careful walls she had built around her heart had cracks now, and she didn't mind them anymore. Daniel's presence had made them necessary to break. They spent the evening walking along the river, their conversation flowing seamlessly between light laughter and deep confessions. The city reflected in the water like a mirror to their emotions, shimmering and unpredictable. Emily found herself leaning into the moments, savoring them, knowing they were precious precisely because of their fleeting nature at the end of the night. They stopped under a street lamp, the soft glow highlighting Daniel's thoughtful expression. Emily felt the pull between staying and letting go, between fear and desire, between certainty and risk. "I have to go," he said finally. "Tomorrow morning, I leave." Emily's chest tightened. She wanted to beg him to stay, to promise something neither could yet, but she restrained herself. "I know," she said softly. "I just wanted tonight." Daniel nodded, his hand finding hers, holding it gently. "Tonight is enough," he said. "And who knows? Maybe it's not the last time. Maybe it's the start of something worth fighting for. Emily smiled, a small, bittersweet curve of lips. She had no answers, no guarantees, but she had the moment. She had honesty. She had connection. She had someone who had looked at her and seen her, truly seen her. In a way, that mattered. They parted with a long, lingering look, the kind that carries promises without words. Emily walked home slowly, feeling the echoes of the night in her chest. Every step was heavier, but also lighter. He had touched something inside her, something she didn't know was waiting. That night, lying in bed, Emily's thoughts drifted back to Daniel's smile. His careful honesty, the way he had made her feel alive again. She realized that some connections couldn't be contained by distance or time. They were reckless, unpredictable, and yet inevitable. The next morning, her phone buzzed. Daniel's name appeared again. Her heart jumped. She hesitated, then opened the message. Safe travels. And Emily. Think of this as the beginning, not the end. She stared at the words, the city outside moving in its usual rhythm. Unaware of the quiet story unfolding between two people daring to care, daring to hope. Emily smiled, a real unguarded smile, knowing that no matter what happened, he had already gotten under her skin and she didn't want him to leave. That was the thing about first love, or something close to it. It wasn't always about forever. Sometimes it was about intensity, about truth, about the way one person could enter your life and shift. Everything quietly, but permanently. Emily didn't know what the future held. She didn't know if Daniel would return, if distance would win, or if circumstances would force them apart. But she knew this. She had felt something real, something raw, something unforgettable. And she also knew that some moments, some people, leave marks that last far longer than the time they spend with you. Daniel had left his mark. And deep down, she hoped it wasn't the last she would see of him. For the first time in a long time. Emily allowed herself to hope, to feel, and to believe that love didn't have to be perfect to be worth chasing. The look that had first stopped her heart had grown into something stronger. Something neither of them could ignore. As she closed her eyes that night, Emily whispered to herself, maybe real is enough. Maybe he's enough. And somewhere across the border, Daniel likely felt the same. Both of them connected by more than distance, quiet, undeniable bond that had begun with one single look.